Welcome. This is Samadhi Game, and it's an impromptu broadcast today. I haven't done a Samadhi Game in a little bit of time, and I thought it might be nice to work on one today. And it's going to be a little bit different. We might do a few mantras, and then we're going to read something that I thought was very interesting. It's the political season, and as you most all know, I'm very into this election and seeing how it goes, and pretty much trying to find a way to see each candidate as per how it's going to affect the nation based on how spiritual of a concept it actually is that they're bringing forth. It has to be something that is in tune with the Indians, in India they call this the Sanatam Dharma. And everything from politics to food to relationship can be based on this eternal core principle. And I'd like to actually work with that a little bit today as we read this beautiful piece that I just started reading. I thought, I've got to read that online. I don't usually do political stuff on Samadhi Game, but I thought maybe today I will. Anyway. All right. So today, let me see if I can find our Samadhi Game and bring up just one or two mantras that we can start with before I launch into this beautiful essay by Theodore Roosevelt Malloch. So I think it'll be an interesting thing to read and understand it from its most joyous perspective. Let's go to Samadhi Game. The opening pillar of light, the pillar of the world. The core of Samadhi Game is the spoken word. We say these words. By doing so, we remind ourselves of the principles that make up the spiritual life. And we can live a little bit more consciously in that way than just letting it happen. So come on and join me in these mantras. This is the opening pillar of light, the pillar of the world. Sublime I am, Samadhi that I am, enfolding me now in that mighty, magic, electronic pillar of cosmic light substance. My identification with its magnificent humility and thoughtful creativity, so powerful and complete that I artfully and magically alter every polarity within my four lower bodies with healing and unity. That was just a little bit of light adjustment. Let's try it again. Sublime I am, Samadhi that I am, enfolding me now in that mighty, magic, electronic pillar of cosmic light substance. My identification with its magnificent humility and thoughtful creativity, so powerful and complete, that I artfully and magically alter every polarity with healing unity. Within this majestic pillar of light blazes that love as the violet compassionate flame, in through and around my etheric, mental, emotional, and physical bodies, effortlessly dissolving, consuming, transmuting, and reconciling the dualities of my human ego, charging my world and all I contact with the tangible substance, living awareness and conscious activity, the presence and superconscious samadhi of all enlightened beings, liberated and ascended masters, seeing, feeling, and hearing this light as it shines, radiates, and resonates within me as a visible pillar of the world, stabilized, supported, and sustained by the brilliant, elegant One, and infinitely sensitive to that invulnerable state of divine I am Samadhi. And we'll give the Om. Time at the core of your being. And we'll finish the mantra. Eternity is my home. I do all that is necessary to actualize this ever-fresh realization and organize my life around it. Eternity is my home. I do all that is necessary to actualize this ever-fresh realization and organize my life around it. Eternity is my home. I do all that is necessary to actualize this ever-fresh realization and organize my life around it. Great. Thank you for joining me with that, in that mantra, which helps us to establish the boundaries of our consciousness, what we will accept and what we will not accept into the sanctity of our aspiring hearts. What will lift our hearts, what will lift the prana within us, what will lift that joyousness within us, and what will not. Which is pretty much the same discussion about the borders of this country. Whether or not we shall have the borders or whether we shall not. But rather than get into that, I'd like to take us to an interesting article which I'd like to read for you. And this is an article I found linked to on Facebook. It's called "The Candidate Who Will Restore U.S. Spiritual Capital." And of course there's advertisements on this page, so bear with me, but I'm going to bring you through this and show you, read along with this, because this is a very interesting article. I'm going to go ahead and read it aloud. I know a thing or two about the presidency and U.S. presidents. This next election in November 2016 is a critical and historic crossroad for our country. We desperately need new leadership. Historically, America is a center-right polity and the modern exemplar of the Judeo-Christian heritage of spiritual capital. I think these are concepts that have pretty much been lost in today's world. That's why I want to read this. I think this is important. Let me present two theses in this regard and demonstrate what they mean for presidential selection. The first thesis concerns the logic of modernity. Excuse me. What distinguishes modernity is the technological project, the transformation of nature for human betterment, as opposed to fatalistic conformity. This project requires inner-directed individuals and free market economies that maximize competition and innovation. Free market economies operate best with limited government. Montesquieu's Commercial Republic and Madison's Federalist No. 10. Limited government can only be maintained under the rule of law. The rule of law can only be sustained if there is a larger cultural context that celebrates responsible individual autonomy. Finally, the responsible individual autonomy presupposes a larger ontological claim about human freedom or free will that requires a theological argument. Moreover, personal autonomy avoids self-destruction and adds a spiritual content to our development when the responsible use of freedom leads to helping to fulfill God's plan by eliminating suffering and promoting freedom in and for others. Key concepts. Recognizing and pursuing and sustaining such autonomy are the spiritual quests of modernity, and this project is best evidenced in the American experiment. There's nowhere else in the world, dear souls, that this experiment is being conducted as it is in America. We are honored to be the cauldron for this expression. The ultimate rationale for the technological project is not simply material comfort or consumer satisfaction, important as these are, but the production of the means of accomplishment. To discover that our greatest sense of fulfillment comes from freely imposing order on ourselves in order to impose a creative order on the world that is perhaps the closest way of coming to know God. In the very language of Samadhi game, we talk about the tantra of enlightenment. This word tantra might frighten some, but I simply translate it as above, so below. Anytime you see tantra, just put in as above, so below, as in heaven on earth. That kind of idea, okay? 3 considerations lead to the conclusion that America must maintain responsible personal autonomy, but all require deep support. First, personal autonomy presupposes free will. This amounts to saying that there is no naturalistic and scientific explanation of the ultimate truths about who we are. Second, we understand ourselves as historical beings, but history does not form a self-explanatory system. Our interpretation of the whole human drama depends on an intimately personal decision concerning the part we are to play in it. In the end, this is a religious decision, not a scientific or academic one. Finally, sustaining our autonomy under trying circumstances requires spiritual stamina. Since naturalism and scientism fail, spirituality in some important sense emerges as the only discipline that can provide ultimate comprehension. Americans have long known and practiced this kind of faith. The second thesis is the documented history of how settlers seeking religious freedom in the United States brought precisely this larger view to America, nourished it and sustained it. This is our legacy and destiny as a nation. The most important historical development in the last 400 years has been the rise of the technological project. This project, not just the market, is the starting point for our American narrative, because although there have always been markets, it is only since the latter 17th century that markets have come to play such a dominant role in our lives. It is the presence of the technological project that explains the very centrality of these markets. America is first and foremost a land of opportunity, innovation, and of growth. A fascinating This project, then there's these advertisements that are put into this document here. This project sees the control of nature for human benefit. It radically changed the way people in the West, and especially in America, viewed the world and their relationship to the world, and led to fundamental changes in the major institutions of the West: economic, political, legal, and social. This led to the expansion of the West and its relationship to the non-Western world, and finally to globalization, the internalization of these Western institutions, including free markets and all they embody. The following claims can be made. Technology is an irreversible historical fact. Abandonment of the technological project would have catastrophic consequences for humanity and threaten its very existence. To the extent that this project creates environmental and other kinds of problems, we are now irrevocably committed to using future developments to address and hopefully solve these problems. To cultures that have most fully embraced the project, including military technology, have come to dominate the world and to spread its vision. This has been a matter of the powerful imposing on the weak. The weak have largely, except for radical Islam, come to embrace the project on their own. This leads to the following tension and paradox. Domestically, government is to maintain a low profile and passive supporting role for commerce and order. But in the international context, the government is to promote actively the entire panoply of the technological project: free market economies, limited government, and the rule of law. To act in foreign affairs to bring about this result is incumbent upon free governments. It is no use pretending that the implications could be otherwise. The next president of the United States must abide by and within the established heritage of America's long-established spiritual capital. He or she cannot deny it, reject it, or pretend it away, as has been the case for Barack Obama. The democratic ideal of interventionist socialism and anti-Americanism we have toyed with over the last 8 years surely must come to an end, as it is totally at odds with the essence of America's true spiritual capital. Which of the Republican candidates on offer, then, best articulates America's spiritual capital in all the senses here described? This is the real question for voters. Dismissing those who cannot be elected or do not have the funding or backing to lead or be elected, we are left with but a few choices. In my opinion, Donald Trump is the leader to endorse and choose. All of us, not just conservatives, need to rally behind him now as America's national candidate. He alone has the business acumen. He alone has the executive experience. He alone is not polluted by Washington insider games. He alone articulates all the necessary ingredients here spelled out. He best understands the technological project, the free economy of the markets, the rule of law, and the limits to government. He wants to bring America back to its spiritual moorings and, in his own words, make it great again. Is his quiet religious faith an impediment? I think not. According to the leading sociologist of religion, when a religious habit continues for hundreds of years, it becomes an established fact. Trump embodies this uniquely American phenomena. The U.S. Constitution forbids any religious test for office holders, but a personal Christian faith is as American as apple pie. Protestants, evangelicals, Catholics, and Jews, all who have themselves often been persecuted for living their faith, should realize this more than any others. Under Donald Trump, there will no longer be any fear for loving God and worshiping in an open way Americans have long enjoyed. There will certainly be no theocracy, but America's spiritual capital will be renewed. We desperately need a new leader, one in America's best spiritual tradition, to get us through the current malaise, a long battle with radical Islamism and economic chaos. We should choose well and use the framework here laid out to inform that choice. There. So, as you probably know, this is a tack that I have personally been taking as well in a lot of discussions that I've had on the internet. Even before the political season started in last spring, I could see it coming, and I enjoy it. It's a great, fascinating romp. And so I established a page on Facebook called Brinkley Civilized Political Activism. You can go there and check it out. And I endorse Mr. Trump on that page. I'm fascinated by the way the establishment holds power and is frightened by his holding court the way he does amongst the American people. And I'm thrilled that he speaks the way he speaks, and you feel his heart deeper than any candidate, because that's where he's coming from. And his intelligence and genius, you know, is there to solve any problem. All he has to do is say he's going to do it. He doesn't have to tell us how he's going to do it, because his authority runs so deeply. His spiritual capital is so profound that you can feel the truth of it, even though he may say it in a somewhat disjointed way sometimes. So I encourage you all, if you're spiritually minded, if you have an idea of what it is to live the true spiritual path, the one that's been walked by all the great saints and sages of all the religions of all the times, you'll realize that we must elect a man who will bring the principles in a political sphere closer to earning spiritual capital again for this country than someone who will take it away and drop it into a socialistic game of loss of personal identity, loss of personal will and volition, loss of ingenuity and passion for one's life, loss of the opportunity to find out what it is that you are given to do as a unique individual identity. In Samadhi Game, we speak a lot about your finding your gift to give gone. And that takes the understanding of who you are at your core, this great identity of God presence, and finding its uniqueness. And the only way that happens on this planet is by trial and error. And so you've got to try, and maybe even fail, and then try again, and maybe fail again. And you can't do that. You can't find yourself striving if the government does it all for you. Robbie lived in Croatia for 10 years. She watched as communism unfurled itself into a socialist democracy, where still the heavy burden of this socialistic philosophy, this socialistic political system, weighs heavily upon the consciousness of the people. And it weighs heavily because they don't have the need to find that personal initiative within themselves to actually strive for that unique identity, that gift that they are to give gone. A lot of things were just given to them, even houses on the Dalmatian coast, little cottages. Everyone was working, and everyone by the state had a little place that they could go to in the summertime and enjoy their summer. Everyone had the same forks. Everyone had the same silverware. Even when we went back to Croatia 3 years ago, I noted it was still the same. It was the same way that it had been in communism times. And people were still living under a tremendous amount of communistic philosophy and political structuring. And you can feel that weight. So I encourage you to find a way in your hearts to embrace this odd candidate who stands out from the field in everything he does, everything he says, this Mr. Trump. And find a way to see that even left and right, whether you look to the left, whether you look to the right, he stands uniquely alone in a way that will embrace the spiritual capital of America, the dynamics of this free enterprise system, and make it work better than it ever has before. Great reform is needed, no doubt, and it's going to take some tumult in the process. But I give my heart to the outcome with Mr. Trump. I find that it will be the outcome with him as president will be far more interesting, far more sustaining for us as a nation in the long run, and I'm even sure in the short run, but definitely in the long run. Because if we keep going the way that we are going today, we're going to end up just as they did in Croatia, getting every single person in this country having the same silverware on the table in front of you, the same flatware, the same china to serve your dinners on, the same access to the same food, to the same education, and this great, boring, bureaucratic, rule and regulated system will begin to overtake what was once a thriving, dynamic, fascinating, worthy of rich media and movies. Look at all the movies that have come out of this American experiment. The trial, the roughness, the toughness, the adventure. You won't find that in a communistic system, in a socialistic system, even in a democratic socialistic system. So I, Gregory Donald Brinkley, fully endorse Mr. Donald Trump, no matter what the conservative GOP establishment, I've been calling it the GOPE, what they say, nothing that they can say can dissuade us any longer. This is our moment in time as a unique spiritual body of people, whether you be Christian, whether you be Buddhist, whether you be Presbyterian, whether you be whatever whether it be New Age, whether you be a Samadhi gamer, a path of enlightenment that I developed. Whatever your path of enlightenment, I truly believe that it is in the spiritual interest of not only America but the world to find it in their hearts to elect Donald J. Trump. So, okay, I'm going to go back and tell you again where to read this. If you can get back, and I'll post this to my webpage and also to web pages, my Brinkley's Civilized Political Activism page, which I hope you will find. I'm going to go back and show you this again just so you can see it. It's called supplements. No, it's called The Candidate Who Will Restore U.S. Spiritual Capital. Theodore Trump would protect our destiny as a nation. So I'll post it and you'll see it there. Let's go ahead and go one more time back through and give one more mantra from Samadhi Game. I'd like to do the pillar of light, the pillar of the world again. This underscores the need for boundaries, this need for this filtering agent in our auric field that allows, it maintains a certain envelope, if you will, of protection around us. And in that envelope, hey honey, you just came home. I'm in the middle of a broadcast. You can join me if you like. And in the middle of, and this envelope of protection, it maintains what we're establishing as our health, our spiritual capital, if you will. And outside of that envelope, we can choose what it is that we allow into it, because the spiritual path isn't just willy-nilly. It's by choice. It's by selection. Just as you would choose good food for your body rather than junk food, and you have that choice constantly at your fingertips, you make the determination as well what you will allow into your auric field, what you will allow into your life as it unfolds, as you find your gift to give gone. And in a similar way, this mantra is a symbol for the borders of our country. Borders that must be established in order to realize your unique individual identity as a nation, without which, what would be the point of having a relationship with me if you have everything that I have? That's the Tantra. Having this polarity between individuals creates dynamic interest. We can't allow America to become the same as every other third world country in the world by a massive influx, just the way Europe is being massively influxed by the refugees at this point, and threatening, and they've already calculated by 2050 there will be nothing left of the original culture of Europe. It will be a mixed culture that has no specificity to it whatsoever. We don't want that to happen. This is the last outpost of the world, this unique, blazing, spiritual, sparkling light of America. We need to protect it. We must establish our borders with great compassion, having a great, big, beautiful door in which people can walk with application. And we'll find those people coming through great citizens, whether they be from Mexico or Bolivia or Colombia or Syria. As they apply and they're vetted and they're approved and they come through the process, a friend of ours just today earned their citizenship. A great celebration was taking place for her. And I must also mention that in my life, with my businesses, I have sponsored 4 individuals from England and from Denmark for their own U.S. citizenships, and they are now happily U.S. citizens, naturalized by the immigration process. There is a way, and if we don't have this fairness at the border, all of those who have spent time and money to receive because of the great gift that America has to offer as citizenship, they will have been slighted by the fact that everyone else is just coming free willy-nilly, and putting quite a burden upon the taxpayers of this country, just as they are the taxpayers of Europe. So this is my political statement. And I was happy to read this again. I will post it. Find us at samadhigame.com, Samadhi Game Tribe on Facebook. Find us on social media, and sign up and follow us on Ustream. Ustream.tv is where we broadcast from. It also comes through on Facebook and on my website, samadhigame.com. But if you sign up at ustream.tv and follow Samadhi Game, every time we go live, you'll get an email that says, Samadhi Game is alive. And you can join us right away and have fun with us. Robbie and I love these broadcasts. She was out with Dante this afternoon, and I had some free time, so I'm doing this broadcast on my own. Maybe she'll stick her head in here before I say our final goodbye. But I urge you to download Samadhi Game Tribe's Manifesto of Enlightenment. It's a fun read. It has other mantras similar to the opening pillar of light, the pillar of the world, the mantra that we gave today. It helps you to establish your boundaries, helps to remind you of establishing your boundaries, just as we need to establish borders. I can say it over and over again because it just doesn't seem to resonate, although even all my spiritual friends are starting to come around and understand that there is something to this. There is something to this need for our nation to be upheld, even as the rest of the world falters and stumbles. It's like when we're in an airplane and if it loses pressure, those little masks come falling down, and when they fall down, you're instructed that you should put yours on first before you turn to your child and put it on the child. That's exactly the place that we're in right now. The world is in upheaval. The plane of state has lost its pressure, and those safety masks have dropped. And it's for us as a nation to put that oxygen mask on ourselves first. And once we've established a harmony, a balance within our nation, once we get some integration going here with all of the flux that we've had going on, the massive amounts of immigration that have been allowed over the last 50 years, we will have a way to reach out again with that same shine and sparkle that America is known for. That today, if you ask people around the world, they won't remember that. It's an important concept here. Most people won't remember what America used to be known for. We can have it again to give away again because that's our core identity. We have to reestablish, we have to work again at establishing those boundaries, those borders, by filtering in what we need and by keeping out what is not. And I'm sorry to say, it's the highest, it may not seem like the highest compassion, but actually it is. Because if we lose America, mark my words, 10,000 years of darkness on this planet will ensue before we can get ourselves out of the grip of a feudal system of communism and socialism. It'll be horrible. It'll be just terrible. So come with me. Join my passion, my excitement. I mean, for God's sakes, of all the candidates out there, who would be more fun? If you just look at it from a fun level, just that alone, let's drop all the serious talk and the understanding of spiritual capital and whatever else, what other political matters and policy matters you'd like to discuss. Just look at it from the fun of following someone who is speaking the truth from his heart. My God, it's exhilarating. All right. Anyway, thanks for joining us today on Samadhi Game. We love you. We will be back again soon for another impromptu broadcast. I'll be posting this, and I'll be also posting the links to the great article that I just read aloud. I almost want to read it again, but I'll just post it. I'll read it again next time too, because I'm on sort of a political rant right now. And again, I urge you to go to Brinkley Civilized Political Activism on Facebook. Join in. Start commenting on some of those posts. I'm a total Trump fan, so anything you see there is going to be pretty much pointing you in the direction of Mr. Trump. And there's a lot of it to do that. A lot of it, including this very fine article, which I highly, highly recommend. All right. Have a great day. Welcome again to Samadhi Game and the political quotient of it, which needs to be spoken of. And I'll leave you with a little bit of music. Calming, gentle, great music. Ciao. Samadhi Game!